and welcome to Rainbow History Class, a queer and trans history that you probably don't get in school. My name is Rudy Jean Rigg.
And my name is Hannah McElhinney, and thanks again for joining us on another episode of this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm cold. I'm going to put a jacket on.
Oh, okay. While Hannah puts a jacket on, let me tell you about the live shows we're going to be doing. We are joining the lineup with the Brisbane Melt Festival here in Australia, and we are doing not one, not two, but three of our stand-up comedy shows. That is correct. We have a entirely scripted.
It's just one show that we'll do 3 times.
Thanks for that clarification, jacketed Hannah. We're doing the same show 3 times for 3 nights only. Thursday, November 7th, Friday, November 8th, and Saturday, November 9th, all at 6:45 p.m. It's a really reasonable time, we think. But if you want to head out and check us out in the dear little town of Vegas, you can head over to bit.ly/RHC Brisbane Melt. So head over there. You can also check that link out over on our Instagram, or I don't know, just Google it. Don't get me to do something. I'm already doing enough. But there you go.
Right,
so,
I'll do all the heavy lifting for the next hour then.
Thank you. All right. What are we talking about this week, Hannah?
Ghosts.
Are you serious? It's not. Hang on. Now, we're pre-recording this quite a few weeks in advance because you decided to leave me and go to America. But I still think that this ghost story is a little preemptive.
I know, but you know what? There's many ghost stories.
I know, which is why I'm having a hard time choosing my Halloween lineup.
Well, this one, who knows? Maybe I'll do it again when I get even deeper into the supernatural elements of it.
Okay.
It begins in Wales.
We're all
okay,
good.
In North Wales.
Okay.
There is a place called Plas Noid. And it is supposedly one of the world's most haunted places.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a favorite of a lot of ghost hunters. There's a lot of like YouTube videos of people kind of going to see it. It's said that there are so many different sightings that have occurred, kind of odd lights.
Really?
Yeah, odd kind of apparitions. Yeah, kind of bangs that would happen, and it is said that only the bravest should venture inside after dark.
This is interesting. I've never heard of this. If you don't know, I'm very interested in this sort of thing. But I've never heard of this place.
Yes.
Is it Crag Wynois? Like if I was to spell it out, is it CRIGYNOS?
No.
It's not.
It's called Plas Noid.
Oh,
PLAS.
okay.
But stop Googling while I'm trying to tell you a
No,
damn
I just
story.
wanted to get a picture.
I'm going to show you a picture. So
Oh
just
my God.
hold your ghostly horses
All right.
and wait.
All right. Sorry.
So apparently it has a chilling atmosphere. Yep, Plas Noid is in a town called Llangollen, and it is a 14th century house.
Great.
Okay? It's kind of with this Gothic architecture.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of who haunts it, there's apparently some random military man who was like not very nice. He haunts it.
Okay.
But also there are 2 other spirits said to haunt this place, and they're benign and also sound kind of lovely. So I don't really know about chilling atmosphere. I think,
Are they ladies in white dresses?
No, they're ladies in black riding cloaks.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a break from the norm. Normally they're in white dresses.
I believe. So this was just this kind of unassuming cottage. But in the late 1700s, it was transformed into an idyllic rural retreat. Dare I say the stuff of cottage-core dreams by 2 women who were known as the ladies of Llangollen.
Okay.
So the older of the 2 ladies was a woman named Eleanor Butler, and she was born in 1739. And the younger of the two was a woman named Sarah Ponsonby, and she was born in 1755.
Okay.
Okay. Both of them were born in Kilkenny in Ireland and were, I guess, born into good families or wealthy families. Eleanor, the older one, was educated. She was sent away to France to be educated in a convent, which was common of the time for more wealthy people. And it was really kind of those convents were just sort of a babysitting facility until marriage. So she spoke fluent French. And she met Sarah in 1768. Okay. Now, this is a queer history podcast, so you're probably like, oh my God, lesbians. The point is we don't know. But what I will say is I did some quick math, and in 1768 when these two women met, Eleanor was 29 and Sarah was 13.
13.
13.
29 and 13.
29 and 13.
That's not adding up to me.
Yeah, right? So old and young, but they didn't like do stuff. Then they just met.
Okay, so they met.
They met because they lived about 25k away from each other.
Okay.
And they became close over the years. I get the feeling that it reminds me a little bit of some of those kind of like New England stories where we know that Eleanor was considered kind of a overeducated bookworm by her family. And I get this sense that like maybe there was a loneliness or they both weren't very interested in the life path set out for them. And so that's how they struck up this friendship. And they did become close over the years. I don't know what form this closeness takes, because if you look at someone who's 29 and someone who's 13, it could be a friendship. I mean, it could have been romantic. It could also have been like sisterly or even like maternal.
Yeah.
But they began to dream of running away together.
Well,
And
now
not
hang on a
just-
second.
Yeah, not just running away together. They began to dream of creating an idyllic rural cottage life together.
But okay, now I just can't get this age gap out of my head though. If we are to go down the romantic route, that is of concern.
It is, I guess, in this era, you know, you would be betrothed. If you were a woman, you would be betrothed to a man. Probably those age gaps weren't unusual.
Yeah.
As soon as you were of childbearing age, you know, you would start to find a suitor.
Yeah.
And also I would say that this was just kind of a relationship, not necessarily a romantic relationship at this point. They just met and became friends.
Okay, but like, isn't there like, sorry, I don't want to derail. Let's keep going.
No, what do you want to say? What do you want to know?
What do you want, really?
What do you want to know?
No, it's like I thought now even there's like criticism of like, oh, like with like celebrities being like, you know, we're together now, and then everyone's like, no, but you knew her when she was a child. It's still weird. You know, like Billie Eilish and Jesse Rutherford is a good example.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, let me just check my math here, because if
like, tell me your math is wrong. Please tell me the age gap is smaller.
the age gap is 16 years.
Okay, well, okay, whatever. I'm not weighing in on this. Just tell me the ghost story. I just want to listen about the ghost. Sorry, I don't mean to like.
Okay, so they became close, but they didn't actually run away together until 1778, which meant that Sarah, the younger one, was 23 by this point.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And, you know, Eleanor was in her 30s. So your age gap reservations, you can put them to bed. Everyone's overage by the time that they left.
All right.
So they had this plan to run away together from Kilkenny and Ireland. Both their parents found them as they were planning to run away and kind of forcibly tried to stop them.
Really?
Yeah, wrenched them apart and kind of were furious at them. But ultimately, you know, that didn't work. They managed to run away together to North Wales.
Right.
Okay, to this town of Llangollen, where they found this cottage.
Do they find it or do they apply through realestate.com?
I get the sense that they bought it.
Yeah, it's interesting that they were able to purchase property.
They did both come from wealth.
Oh,
so
it's true.
I'm not
Okay.
sure like
Wouldn't have been
how
an
or
issue.
where or if they were naughty naughties and stole it.
I hope they stole it.
But they moved to Wales and then they sent for Sarah's servant, who was this woman named Mary Carroll. And she lived and worked with them for the rest of her life.
Wow.
And an interesting tidbit about Mary, the servant, was Mary actually died first, but all three of them were buried in the same plot with the same grave marker.
Wow, that's interesting for a rich person.
Yeah, and I think, it is. It's interesting. So there was three of them together in a definite
Mass grave.
And with a big kind of economic or class divide. And I think what's interesting is whether or not these two were in a romantic relationship. I think often they are considered to be in a Boston marriage. Others say they were almost definitely in a romantic or sexual relationship. But I think that the presence of Mary in their life and them wanting to have themselves buried next to her suggests that they were a family unit, and that maybe that suggests that, I don't know, maybe it wasn't like a super sexual relationship. I'm not sure. But it certainly is unusual or was unusual at the time. But these women, Eleanor and Sarah, started kind of working on their property, and they poured so much love into this property. They sort of became known and people started to want to visit them. So they were not secret about the fact that they were living together. They dressed almost identically, wearing top hats and black riding coats, or cloaks, if you will.
How has Kate Blanchett not played both of them?
You know, it's definitely coming soon. I hope, and I hope Todd Haynes directs it. I really do.
Yes.
I hope it's Kate Blanchett and Rooney Mara.
Yes.
But I think what is interesting about these two is they did wear men's clothing.
Yeah.
So this was men's dress. Now, I don't think anyone really held that against them. It was sort of a sense that they needed this because they did so much work on their garden and they're working outdoors. It was a sense that they were wearing this practical clothing.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how a top hat is practical, but the people of Llangollen in northern Wales in the 1700s reckoned it was fine.
Yeah, okay.
And this house, this cottage is Gothic, and really like fairy tale.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's an illustration of it.
It has like these glass panes on the front.
Yeah, and it's got this kind of I don't even know. I don't have a great understanding of.
Wait, let me. What do I have to Google to get this?
But here's a photo of it because it's still standing.
Oh, okay. Oh my God, it looks like the house from the Wallace and Gromit Case of the Were-Rabbit film.
Yeah, it's kind of I guess it's sort of medieval Gothic architecture.
It's probably like a thatched roof, got some stained glass that harkens back to their time in a convent.
Yeah, it's it's a very kind of these stained glass windows. But these women, they added to it. So originally it was this kind of a bit of a ramshackle cottage or whatever. But what they did was they added like these huge gardens and these additional Gothic features were added to it. And there are these kind of bridges, an archway. They added a temple. They added stained glass windows. They were DIYing.
That is a feat.
Right. And so people started to become interested in that.
They wanted to escape to the country.
They did. And, you know, everybody, all these other people wanted to started to come and visit them. And people like William Wordsworth, the poet,
Fucking nerd.
Percy Shelley.
Wow.
Yeah, came and was a good friend of theirs. And
that's
he was,
interesting,
you know,
yeah.
bisexual as
Yeah.
well. And the army general of the era
Now that
rolled on through.
okay, well, okay. I'm
Yeah.
sensing a theme.
There was also the Queen.
Hang on now. What? What?
Yep.
No.
Yep. So the Queen really, really wanted to come and visit as well. People just loved their DIY spirit. To the point where Queen Charlotte at the time just really wanted to see it. So she actually persuaded King George III to grant them a pension.
What? Wait, what does that have to do? So she was like, I love this place so much, you must give them money to
Yeah,
live.
to continue with their tinkering.
Oh.
Because as they added on so many, I should have said this before, but as they added on so much, they kind of ran out of money.
Oh, yeah.
And their parents had cut them off, right? So they weren't really talking to their parents and they were trying to avoid being, you know, married off. So they were sort of self-sufficient. But what they did was they had to kind of rely on the generosity of friends. So their bestie, the army general, comes round and he adds a bit of gothic detailing.
Wow.
And people kind of helped them, chipping in money just to, I think they loved what they'd created.
Yeah. That's cool.
And they had all of this crockery that had their like initials in it. And they just hosted all sorts of different people.
I love this. This is what they call premier bed and breakfast.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think what's interesting is this was a similar, I don't know if you've heard of Anne Lister.
Mm-hmm.
So Anne Lister had these diaries where it was very clear that she was having sexual escapades with other women and she also wore kind of a top hat and men's dress. And that was very, very clear that she was someone that you could like safely call a lesbian by today's standards. Not so with these ladies of Llangollen because they certainly sit in that romantic friendship, you know, you don't know for sure kind of how they related, but they did have multiple dogs called Sappho.
I'm out. What? They had multiple dogs at the same time, all called Sappho?
No. Like in succession, like one would die and then they get a new Sappho and then they get a new Sappho.
And what was the naming order? Was it Sappho 1, Sappho 2, Sappho 3 or Sappho A, Sappho B, Sappho C?
I'm not sure. The only documented names for these Sapphos are,
Or
just Sappho.
Is it like, are they using like the vowel? So Sappho, Sappha, Sapphi, like.
I would have to like go away and look at that.
That's a joke. And that one was a joke for free. That now listen. I'm not sure. I'll tell you what I do know about people who have grand estates with multiple dogs.
What?
They're never straight. Because there was someone, I visited an estate. I did speak about this a while ago on the show. I visited an estate of a prolific man who loved architecture, loved philanthropic endeavors, loved a good piece of art. He had a wild estate, a salmon pink house. He had multiple dogs, and I forced a group of other influencers and creators to go on a dog cemetery tour with me at this estate. And so I can prove for sure that no one in the same circumstances is straight. They're all gay.
I would say that. And you know, from a serious perspective, I think you could safely refer to them as queer if you take the meaning queer as outside of the norms of the time, and their relationship definitely did. You know, like either the dog's name Sappho is the clincher, the cottage-core estate is the clincher, or I think we can just broadly say they were queer and bucking the relational norms of the time. But yeah, so people would come and visit them. They were, by the sounds of it, kind of dull.
Okay.
Like they were not eccentric in terms of personality. They dressed identically in men's clothing with top hats. So they were eccentric sartorially. soon this uniform that they would wear fell out of fashion. So maybe people thought they were a bit outdated.
Yeah.
You know, like old-fashioned women. But I think people were interested in their love more than them as people, perhaps.
Yeah.
It did go around in the late 1700s. There are some rumors that they were sexually, intertwined.
Okay.
But that was all just kind of gossip.
Okay.
And I think they lived for like quite quiet lives, even though I would assume based on the number of queer guests that they had, like Percy Shelley, they were certainly, like not outside of these circles, but they seemed like your garden variety Northcote lesbians to me.
Yeah.
So even William Wordsworth wrote a sonnet dedicated to them. Like, people were just so moved. Now, there was another poem written about them by this person named Anna Seward, who's I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And she wrote a poem, Llangollen Vale, and she associates these two women with chaste provinciality.
What's that mean?
Well, I think it is kind of, to me, they're the original cottage-core couple, because what cottage-core is really about is kind of romanticizing a relationship that takes on traditional gender roles, but both people in it are kind of women.
Yeah.
So it was this beautiful provincial life.
I don't get that's true. Yeah,
It was romantic, but certainly sexless compared to how you read the diaries of Anne Lister.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Yeah. Fair enough.
So
I mean, they could have been ace.
even if it was not kind of an asexual situation, or it was a romantic friendship, or it was kind of a sisterhood thing with Mary, the servant. If it was a sexual relationship, this was not something that they spoke about, or it wasn't a big part of their relationship.
Yeah. And so like their hauntings in this place, just to circle back to the ghosts. Are we getting there?
We'll get there.
Okay, all right.
So they lived like this for just 50 years, which is
just a
simple half a decade.
Half a century.
Half a century, that's what I mean. Half a century. They lived for 50 years. No.
Together?
They lived together in this place for 50 years. And with their dogs named Sappho and their flamboyant and queer guests, and the Queen would stop by. And it was Mary who died first. But then Eleanor, the older one, she died in 1829.
Okay.
And Sarah Ponsonby died only 2 years later.
Oh.
So I sort of feel like they couldn't live without each other. Eleanor lived a really long life. She lived until she was 90, which is a big feat, in the 1800s.
Wow.
And Sarah died at the age of 76, just...
Still pretty good.
Yeah. Just a couple of years later. And they're all buried together. Now, Place Noid is a museum, so you can go.
Oh, wow.
And their estate has it's been turned into a museum, and it is said to be very, very haunted. And you can go online, because I'm like, I want to keep this stuff factual. I don't know heaps about ghosts. So the fact here is that I can factually tell you there are a lot of reports from ghost hunters that talk about going there and saying it's one of the most haunted places in Europe.
Did I say that about every place they go to?
Yeah, and to be honest, like, Europe just is haunted.
Yeah.
But apparently their spirits are much like they were as people, which you would, I guess, expect. That's not surprising. But they are kind, benevolent, quiet spirits that just stay in this house together and appear occasionally.
Oh, that's sweet.
Which I think is nice.
Yeah, that is nice.
So I don't know about all this chilling
I mean, it's probably doesn't have.
I think that what was written about it was the place has a chilling history. I kind of think like if chilling means like laid back and hanging out, then yes.
What's
but
chilling about it?
I don't know what's chilling about it.
They didn't have ducted heating. Like,
I think it was cold.
Yeah.
I think it was definitely cold. But what's nice about this is it's a story that's free of conflict. Even their families came around in the end and sort of grew to, I guess, tolerate them.
Okay.
The neighbors, you know, maybe they were a source of kind of gossip, but people were just like, oh, that's so nice. They're making a house, or they're out there gardening again.
God, they're wearing the same top hat for the 5th day in a row. Do you think they could get a second one?
Yeah, like they, you know, and their friends had come around and chip in. It's really all very grand designs.
It's very grand designs. It's escaped the country. It's a bit of a house flipper. You know, all those great classic hits. I quite loved it. It's very delightfully dull.
It is.
Yeah. Something very, super cottage-core, super kind of, you know, it makes you want to put the kettle on.
It does.
Yeah. All right, that's sweet. That's nice.
Anyway, that is my story for today. It's very quick.
Thank you. It is quick, but I feel like it was such a good insight into some people's lives. And it's so interesting because I feel like, you know, I listen to a lot of stuff about ghosts and stories and whatever, like shout out, and that's why we drink. Love Em and Christine. But like it is hard. I mean, they do it, I think, in my favorite way, which is telling the stories of like the actual people. But I find a lot of, especially ghost hunters and stuff, they were like, oh, there's this little guy called Timmy. I'm like, well, I want to know what Timmy's favorite color was. You going to tell me that? No. So it's nice for once to actually hear the story and the lives of someone. And it's good to know that we're proving marketing of haunted houses wrong. They lived a very boring life, thank you very much. And that's the way we like it. Sure, that's the way they liked it too. So
they did.
Wow, you got to tell me some more ghost stories, Hannah, because that was great.
I
Thank
will.
you.
All right, I can do that. But yeah, anyway, thanks for listening to a short and sweet episode on a couple of original cottagecore lesbians from the 1700s in Northern Wales, the ladies of Llangollen. I do suggest you go on a little bit of a YouTube.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to go on one later. But after you've looked up the house, because it is quite delightful, actually, I'm sure the grounds as well were really beautiful. You can head over and join our Discord. Put your findings in there.
Yes, that's where we can really get into the ghost hunting.
Yeah. Or you can jump over on our Patreon where we have our more exclusive content as well as a free tier, which has some access to some free stuff as well as occasionally we make some exclusive stuff available on the free tier too. And then, of course, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok. And if you want to come and find us in real life, as we said at the top of the show, we are playing at the Brisbane Melt Festival this year in Brisbane at the Brisbane Powerhouse Theatre, I think it's called. It's definitely called the Brisbane Powerhouse. That's what I've got on my screen now. We're doing 3 of our stand-up comedy shows in November, Thursday the 7th, Friday the 8th, and Saturday the 9th, all at 6:45. And you can get those tickets over at bit.ly/RHC at Brisbane Melt. That's the link, or you can Google it if you don't feel like going to the link I made you, which is so fine. But yeah, Hannah, do you have something to leave?
I do.
Here on the table?
And again, not everything is gay, but there is gay in everything, including at least one of the dogs named Sappho.